Something which has always intrigued me with games from the days of the 8-bit micros is seeing where developers thrived. For some, it was in aiming their games at those premium full-price markets, while for others, success was found releasing at budget price points instead. Then, there were those who would straddle the path between them, releasing games at either price point as best suited for each game. Something which really helps out when establishing oneself in the industry back then, as would have been the case with Sensible Software, who released a few budget titles in their early days alongside their more highly regarded full-price efforts. One of those is particularly 1988's Oh No, published through Firebird via their Silverbird label. As presented by the game's inlay, what story here is rather slight. It's the far-off future, and you're tasked with protecting your space oxen from being taken by space rustlers. Their assaults are relentless, and to survive, you'll need to withstand 9 waves of attacks across 11 worlds, a convenient 99 levels to clear all up. And yes, those jewel-like things are the oxen you need to protect. It's kind of the vibe this game goes with, and it's best to get on the saddle with it right from the outset if you really want to rack up those points. I guess, believe it or not, it is a classical score chaser after all. Oh No also happens to be a take on Cinematronics' ripoff arcade game from the early 80s, though it does happen to take a few little tricks which make it far more frantic, yet more approachable to play. Firstly, you don't have lives. Instead, the game ends once all your oxen have been snatched. Unsurprisingly, collisions with enemies don't harm you, instead bubbing you about the playfield. It's a ridiculously simple change, but it helps make Oh No something I feel I can go back to, easing some of the frustrations a chaotic shooter might have at times. It also helps extend it beyond that 2-minute run you'd commonly experience playing an arcade game, and yeah, that's always more fun to have when sitting at home enjoying a game in your own time. Another change which I think helps Oh No is how your ship, Bad Jack, handles. Ripoff was played with an asteroid-style control scheme. Rotate your ship, thrust in a given direction, or tank in this case, and that works rather well for the less intense action it provided. For Oh No, this is replaced with a scheme where you push the stick to face in a given direction, with thrust always being applied. With a larger playfield than Ripoff's single screen, it lets you zip about and chase down those rustling jerks with ease, before they succeed in getting away with your oxen. You've also got the weapons. Once again, the faster pace of Oh No means aiming to hit those rustlers can be a bit fiddly at times. Now, your main weapon is obviously the main way you need to take them out, but it's not the only way you can do so. Because alongside your main weapon, there's a boomerang launcher, which will launch and track down a single enemy. This happens to be incredibly convenient, because it means there's less to focus on, as this weapon is basically fire and forget. It'll launch, come back, launch, come back. So you can just let it do its thing while you're focusing on one other enemy. Now this happens to mitigate something that I guess I could say is the one thing I kind of don't like about it, and that's the viewing area. If you're looking at a static screen, it doesn't look at times. It looks like there's enough space to see what's going on. But the combination of the game speed and the size of the sprites, it sometimes feels like you're flying blind into hazards. And of course, like I mentioned earlier, they're not really hazards per se, but still, they could distract you for a few moments as you handle the recoil from the balance. Now this is mitigated by your trusty radar panel. Here, you get the locations of any oxen you need to protect on screen. Those are the dimmer dots, your ship being the bright white dot, and the other coloured dots, they indicate whatever enemies are on the level. Sadly, this doesn't let you prioritise those more important targets, so keeping up your visual scanning is always going to be important to keep those oxen from being rustled. There is one final little trick Oh No has, which helps keep the game flowing for play at home, and that's the ability to earn extra oxen. It's not exactly as simple as it should be. You basically need to track down a red laser turret-like enemy. This will appear at the playfield at certain points in the game, and blast it. Once you do that, boom! A new Oxen has spawned, and the counter of those remaining increases by 1, and the game is extended. Really, that's all Oh No is. Its original arcade inspiration, well, it wasn't really an incredibly deep game by the standards of the early 1980s, and unsurprisingly as a result, Oh No isn't really that deep either. That's nothing to be ashamed of though. Some of the more thrilling games of the 8-bit era don't have a lot to them as well, other than being something which is easy to pick up, to play, and to go back to. All of this is something Oh No happens to offer. Again, it's no surprise here, as this was sensible software coming off the back of games like Whizball and the Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, the peak of their C64 years. Which means controls are tight and responsive. The visuals are a split between some nicely drawn and animated sprites, but also some of the backgrounds which do feel a little awkward at points. They don't clash with the sprites, which is a very big thing, but they're still a little searing at points. Now, Oh No isn't really the type of game that is going to be one you want to sit down forever to have incredibly long play sessions with. What it does offer is some rather frantic action, and a bit of a twist on an arcade game which has only ever seen one official conversion back in the past. It's a neat look at a lesser known game from the early days of a studio who happened to develop to have some fairly wild styles out there, and it's generally one I think is worth taking the time to check out, especially if you happen to be a fan of incredibly frantic arcade blast fests. Though with all that, it's time to put this one to rest. If you enjoyed the video, the best way to show support is to give it a like or leave a comment, or even better, tell your friends. Beyond that, there are of course other ways to help support the show, and those are documented in the video description. Joining the Patreon for early access to upcoming episodes, joining the mailing list to be notified when episodes air without having to deal with the fun of subscription feeds, and everything else down there. But for now, what else is there for me to say but to thank you all very much for watching.